live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com. This is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
John, well, he's gone. Gone as leader. I'm not surprised. I am a little surprised at the depth of the discontent. 75 members of the Conservative caucus voted against Aaron Toole. In other words, voted to hold a leadership convention. Excuse me. Only 45 of caucus members voted to support him. So I am surprised, as I say, at the depth of the discontent. I knew that I had a very good idea. I have several sources that he was going to lose. He needed 60 votes, as you know, and it would appear that he wasn't going to get that, and he didn't come anywhere near. He got 45 votes. So he's history as leader. Still be a strong member of the Conservative Party, I would imagine. What's your feeling on this, folks? Is this a good move by the Conservative Party of Canada? Is it a mistake to change horses like this? What do you think was his biggest problem, the biggest mistake? I know that for many members, particularly those more on the right side of the Conservative Party, it was the fact that during the leadership campaign, he essentially campaigned as a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, opposed to carbon taxes, etc. But when he became leader, he flip-flopped on a number of issues, particularly the carbon tax. I must tell you that, speaking personally, of all of the flip-flops he did, the one concerning carbon tax bothered me the most. I must also tell you, and I don't know how deeply this affected the party, but it also bothered me that he was so hesitant to talk about which members of his party had not been vaccinated. He refused to say that only vaccinated people would be allowed into Parliament. And I felt, if he had just said one way or the other, but he equivocated, and that's not what I am looking for a leader. I'm not sure about you. But now comes the question. Okay, there's going to be a leadership convention. There'll be an interim leader will be chosen. I have no idea who it will be. And then there will be a leadership convention. And try as I might, I've not been able to find out when that leadership convention will be. I would surmise that they'll hold it as quickly as possible. So who would you like to see as leader of the Conservative Party of Canada? There are a number of obvious contenders if they choose, and that's the big question. Will Peter Mckay be interested in running? He finished second in the last campaign, as you know, or I'm talking about leadership campaign. Pierre Poilievre would be a very strong candidate. He declined to run in the last campaign. I'm not sure. I know Pierre very well. We've been friends for many, many years. But I'm unclear as to whether he would be interested this time or not. He's a young father, 2 children. And he may decline once again. My feeling is that if he decided to run, he could probably win it quite easily. Although I must tell you that there is also a lot of support, and I certainly would support her, Michelle Rempel-Garner, representing Calgary. Very strong candidate. And not only that, but a female, which I think a female leading the Conservative Party at this time in our history might not be a bad idea. I don't know how you feel about this. She has a degree in economics. You may not know this, but she was first elected in 2011, and she became the youngest female cabinet minister in Canadian history. That's how good she was, how effective in the Harper government. She serves on any number of committees. She's a very useful member, very well spoken. I know, John, you're not particularly crazy about her, but I think that she would be an excellent candidate. And as I say, a female candidate leading a party at this stage in our history might not be a bad idea. Other possible candidates, they're talking about Brad Wall, former Saskatchewan premier, much loved in the West. I would think much less known here in the East. The woman by the name of Leslyn Lewis, who is a woman of color, a very powerful voice, very, very conservative. One of the things that might be holding her back is it is rumored and probably true that she is opposed to vaccine, that she is one of those of the Conservative Party that has not been vaccinated and is an anti-vaxxer, which I think in today's atmosphere might be harmful for her. Jason Kenney, I just can't see. There was a time when I think Jason could have won it easily, but he's made a number of mistakes. He's quite unpopular in his own province right now, so I doubt if he would be interested, and I doubt if he could win. But so those are just some. There may be some others. And by the way, the constitution of the Conservative Party is such that you don't have to be a sitting member in order to run or to win. So anyone, John, you could run. Are you interested? That stalled him.
You know what, Lowell, if I'm being honest, I struggle with it. I think about it a lot. The more I've always been quietly active with politics. I've always, been on my MPs, my MPPs, and my city councilors.
Are we uncovering something here, John? Have we got?
No, listen. I've said this publicly. I've thought about it. I really don't know that I would have the same passion for that as much as I feel somebody needs to stand up and somebody needs to stand for something, and I crave leadership, and I know that I can be a leader. I just don't know that I have the passion to do that.
One of the, I ran, as you know, on a couple of occasions.
Yep.
One of the things that really bothered me in both instances was how partisan you had to be. It just seemed to me that it really didn't matter what was good for the country. It didn't really matter what would be good for the people of the country. The only thing that mattered is that it followed the party platform, and I found that very, very disturbing. It seems to me that members of parliament, particular leaders, you should have the entire country, the entire city, all citizens in mind, and this hyper partisanship really disturbs me deeply. I don't know if it will ever change. Probably not. In fact, I think, as evidenced by the United States, the partisanship seems to be growing deeper and deeper all the time. But let's throw it open to the people. I have several questions here, and please let's not get on to vaccines today, okay? Please, we've dealt with that now for weeks. Everybody's sick of it. If you don't want to get a vaccine, okay, don't. If you do, go ahead, please. But let's deal with the issue. Are you surprised? Do you think it's a good move to get rid of O'Toole? Did he disappoint you? And what way did he disappoint you? What are some of the things that disturbed you about Aaron O'Toole and his leadership? Or did you support him? Are you surprised at the depth of the discontent? 75 caucus members voting essentially against him, only 45 in support. Are you surprised at the depth of that? Who do you think should be the temporary leader? But more importantly, who would you like to see run for the leadership? Let me ask some of you out there who've I've heard from a good many of you, or some of you, that as long as O'Toole is there, you couldn't vote for him. You couldn't vote for a conservative. You'd vote for, I don't know who else. But so is there some person there that would run and win and become leader that would convince you to switch your vote from Liberal, NDP, People Party, or whatever the hell it is, and decide to vote conservative? Who would you like to see as the leader there? John, give us the number and the way to get in touch with us again, please.
All right. Your direct line to Lowell Green is 613-413-2217. Email lowell@blasttheradio.com. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, etc., wherever you would ordinarily post a comment, you do that. It pops up on the screen, and I'll read as many of them on the air as I can. But again, we really, really, really would love to hear from you. 613-413 888-203-2217.
And you can vote for John if you want.
I am bilingual, so there's that.
Are you bilingual?
I am fluently bilingual. Oui, monsieur. Je parle français aussi bien que je parle anglais. Oui.
Not only that, but you have a dog and a cat.
Well, win them over with puppy love. That's, speaking to what you just said moments ago, as far as leadership is concerned, I think this is where we're at with politics, and this is just me opining. We'll get to the listener comments here in a moment. But I think far too many politicians right now feel like they are in power and forget that what they actually are is in servitude. That's what I'm looking for in a leader for any party, someone who recognizes that they are in servitude to us.
I think we want somebody who leads, too. We all
For
realize that no matter what policy you decide to adopt, it's going to cheese some people off. Nobody is going to be pleased with everything.
Absolutely.
But it's important to take a stance so that we know where you stand. And very interesting, if you check back in history, distant history and more recent, you will find that those leaders, particularly conservative leaders, who have been very successful, have been very, very definitive, very strong in their stance. I'm thinking of the Iron Lady. I'm thinking of Ronald Reagan, one of the most successful politicians I think ever.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill. Those, in many cases, these people were extremely unpopular because of some of the stands that they took. But in the end, it turned out that they not only did they win, but they were highly effective and had a very, very positive effect, not only on their country, but in the case of Ronald Reagan, for example, Winston Churchill had a very positive effect on the entire world, for that matter. But they took stance, even though they may have been controversial, and as the Iron Lady said, this lady's not for turning. The opposition to her, Margaret Thatcher, the opposition was tremendous, including within her own party. The same thing with Winston Churchill. I mean, the bulk of Churchill's party at first were all in favor of signing some sort of a peace deal with Hitler, and we all know what would have happened with that. But Churchill was steadfast in his claim that no, we will never surrender. And they didn't, and we all know what happened. All right, let's hear what people have to say, folks. John, what have we got there, please?
I'm reading this purely because I'm an egomaniac. Patrick says, John Mckay is too talented and too honest to run for politics. So there's that. Leave me out of it. I'm not running. Boy, we got a pile of comments. Here we go. Okay. Jeffrey says, best move and at the right time. Ken says he was dull, absolutely unimpressive as a leader. Jean or Jean, I apologize, I don't know. Good move. He didn't represent the conservative values, compromised and paid the price. Greg says it's only a good move if Pierre takes the reins. Mike says making things very easy for Trudeau again. Coraline, O'Toole changed his mind way too many times.
Wait, hold on just a minute. That's an interesting observation. The
Trudeau comment?
Yeah. How does that make it easier for Trudeau? I'd be interested to have someone comment on that. Go ahead, John.
Let me see. We want Pierre Poilievre, says James. Yes, he's out because he keeps flip-flopping, not a strong enough leader. Jason says, you never hear O'Toole compared to Pierre Poilievre. Brian says, Pierre Poilievre. DL says, Pierre. Cheryl says, Leslyn Lewis. Jason says, Peter Mckay. No way. Sean, Pierre Poilievre. Craig says, Peter Mckay. Michelle Rempel, Pierre Poilievre. John Baird, perhaps?
John Baird is a good friend of mine. And I can tell you that he's not going to be running. Go ahead.
Where is he these days? I've not heard that name in a long time.
He's in Toronto, doing very, very well with a legal firm there. He's involved with a number of major companies. He's John Baird is a wonderful person, extremely intelligent, and is doing very, very well. Thank you very much.
Susan says, someone who won't run and hide, stand with Canadians, listen, and maybe show some guts. Anne says, it has to be a woman. I wish the con men would realize that. Women voters need someone to relate to, and most people do not like Trudeau. Give them an alternative, and they'll jump ship over to the Conservatives. They need an alternative. O'Toole did not provide it. His platform was confusing to most people. Over to text at 613-413-2217.
That's a very interesting observation. His platform was confusing. Yes, it was. I hadn't thought of it in those terms. But when you state that, I have to agree. There were some aspects that I disagreed with, but overall, it was confusing. For example, where did he stand on the issue of gun control? I never could figure that out. Where did he stand on vaccinations? I never could figure that out. And that, as far as I'm concerned, with a leader, is a big mistake. Confusing. Thank you. That's a very, very astute observation. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
Well, I'm going to slow down between comments just so you've got a chance to jump in there, okay? I know I go a little too fast
Sure.
for you
No,
sometimes.
no, you don't. No, that's fine.
Okay. 613-413-2217. This person says, not surprised he's out. For Pierre Poilievre, he may not run, though Rempel Garner is great, too. Let me see. Bring back Stephen Harper, says this person via text.
No, I know Stephen, and he's not going to be running either. Go ahead.
Another text. Pierre Poilievre has demonstrated his passion and patriotism, something Canadians desperately need and crave.
Let me just say this about Pierre. This morning, on Facebook, there was a rather long video of a very thorough interview conducted. I'm not sure when it was. I think it was a couple of years ago. And the depth of Pierre's understanding of economics and many other aspects of Canadian life was quite astonishing. I mean, as I say, I've known Pierre for a long time. He's very smart if you watch him in the House. But this guy, I mean, he is a student of history. He is a student of economics. I doubt if there is anybody in Parliament anywhere close to the knowledge of economics as Pierre Poilievre, and God knows we need it now. He went into an explanation as to the dangers of debt and raised a number of issues that I had never thought of before. What I'm saying is that in Pierre Poilievre, this is an extremely bright guy, filled with passion, very good on his feet. I think a very honest family man, and I hope the hell that he runs. Go ahead, John.
I agree. He's absolutely brilliant. He has been in Parliament for a long time and has been there as a very young MP. And my concern when I see Pierre Poilievre is, does he come across as way too stuffy?
Oh, I never thought of him in those terms. Stuffy. No, I mean, a lot of people think he's too volatile. Go
Well,
ahead.
but I mean, compared to the swagger of the Trudeau, and we often talk about, the rock star syndrome that is at play there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
When you compare the two, that's my only comment there.
Okay.
The next leader needs to remove all the wonder children who keeps pushing leftism. Terry says people would vote for Rona or Michelle. They are a lot better looking than Trudeau. See, there you go, back to the whole rock star side of things again. Norma says I liked Brian Wall when he was premier.
Brad Wall.
Brad Wall. She said Brian. Yes, you're right. It's Brad.
Former Saskatchewan premier. Much loved in the West. But as I say, not nearly as well known in the East. And maybe a little old. By the way, Michelle Rempel Garner is just 41. So she's still relatively young. Considerably younger than Trudeau, is she not?
Yeah, he's my age.
Okay.
So I'm 53 in a couple of weeks, so he's around there. Kathy on Facebook says, someone who can talk the talk and walk the walk and back it up. Sonia says, Aaron O'Toole disappointed me. He flip-flopped too often, but I still supported him as I could not vote for anyone else. I would like Pierre to run, but I doubt he will. He has a very young family. Michelle Rempel is a strong woman, as is Rona Ambrose. I would vote for either. No to Peter Mckay. Dave says, anyone got Kevin O'Leary's number? Anna says, would love to see Rona Ambrose step up. She ticks all the boxes. We need a woman for women voters to relate to. Michelle Rempel Garner is great too, but if choosing between them, I would choose Rona. Yeah,
Rona would be a very powerful candidate. There's no question. She was interim leader for a period and did a wonderful job. There's no question about it. I don't know her personally, but from all the information I have, is she's probably not interested. John, I've got to take a moment here to talk about a company that interests a lot of people. I'm talking about Shields. Now, I still, and you've heard the same thing. When I keep talking about Shields, and I hear people saying, well, they're just a small company. I'd sooner deal with the big guy. But if you're going to, yeah, you can deal with the big box stores. But if you're doing that, you're not supporting local. And in many cases, you're not doing yourself any great favor, because if you check the prices, and this is important, particularly today with everything skyrocketing, if you check the prices, and you can, at www.shields.ca. Check the prices. You may be surprised. In many cases, Shields is highly competitive. In some cases, can beat the big box stores. Their cost of operation is less up there in Pakenham. They got a huge warehouse, so it's all in stock. 99% of anything that you want will be there in the color, the size, the brand, and the price range that you want at Shields. They're good folks, good pricing. Check it. You know what? I keep saying this. At least check it out. You may be surprised. You save yourself a little bit of money and a little bit of trouble. John, go ahead, please. What else have we got here?
So a young listener is asking, what are what prompted them to have a vote regarding Aaron O'Toole?
Well, there was a petition signed by 35 members of the Conservative caucus that demanded a leadership review. There has been a lot of discontent, and primarily, at least that's which has been expressed, primarily concern over his flip flops. And I think the number one concern, the number one thing that upset a lot of conservatives was the fact that while during his campaign for the leadership, he promised that he would not have a carbon tax. Immediately he became leader. He flip flopped and came in with a carbon tax. There are many conservatives, myself included, who are hotly opposed to a carbon tax of any kind. It is one of the main drivers of skyrocketing cost of living. One of the main drivers, as a matter of fact, of increasing shortages. One of the main drivers, as a matter of fact, for the truckers' protest that's still here in Ottawa is the carbon tax. I mean, as an example, particularly if you come from the West or you're a farmer. I mean, it is so unfair. There are grain farmers in the West. I remember Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, came to Trudeau with two receipts that he had from farmers in Saskatchewan. One receipt for was almost $4,000 for carbon tax for 1 month for propane to dry the farmer's grain. The other receipt was almost $5,000 for 1 month for the carbon tax. That's not the total cost. Total cost was in the tens of thousands. But the carbon tax on one invoice for just to heat the grain, the grain's got to be dried. If you don't dry the grain, it's going to turn moldy and you'll lose the whole crop. So they use huge propane heaters, which of course burn a lot of fuel. And the carbon tax for one farmer was $4,000 for a month, and the other farmer was almost $5,000. Now, you don't think that adds to the cost of food? If a farmer has got to pay $5,000 in carbon tax alone just to dry his grain, what do you think that does to the price of everything that grain makes, for God's sake? Everything from your donuts to bread to pies, everything. Go ahead, John. Sorry, I ramble on.
No, that's okay. And Jess, thank you for your question. It's nice to have some of the young people engaged in these conversations. Anne says, besides Pierre, I like Carolyn Mulroney, but she's too soft-spoken. If not Pierre, Rona Ambrose would be my choice. Peter says, need to get rid of this carbon Trudeau tax. It's adding too much taxes to the price of everything. And Peter adds that O'Toole could not give a clear answer on meeting with the convoy last week till he had to get permission from the kids in his office. That turned me off of him. Candice Bergen name being put forward. Brian says, fertilizer alone is up 4 times. Dog Bones says, scrap the tax. Melissa says, what about Candice Bergen? So that name's popping up again and again and again. Another vote for Pierre Poilievre from Darlene. Here's an email, Lowell, from Lisa. Lowell, O'Toole's downfall was that he was too wishy-washy, didn't take clear stance on anything. Whomever takes his place, I just hope that person is too hardline. No one wants a dictator. A woman would be good, but not necessarily a deciding factor.
Let me just jump in here.
Of course.
And that is that if they get a leader, if the Conservatives get a leader who takes very strong definitive stands, some of these people who are now saying they want somebody who's going to take some strong stance,
right,
you're going to object at the stance that they take. I can assure you of that. The only way not to offend anybody is don't say anything. You know about the only inoffensive thing that is in this house is the refrigerator, because it doesn't talk. Go ahead.
Darlene says, I liked Andrew Scheer. Put 100% down for Pierre. CJ, on YouTube, we haven't had a YouTube comment in a while other than the fact that our logo has a devil in it. Therefore, BTR are yeah, we're Satanists over here on Blast the Radio. Well, welcome to the club.
Oh, God, where do these people come from?
I don't know.
And
CJ says,
you know what scares the hell out of me? These people breed. Go ahead.
I mean, you have to laugh at it. Like, but you look at that. Is this person serious? Are they being funny? I don't know. The lines are so blurred. All right. On YouTube, CJ says he has a 20-year plus career in broadcasting in Canada and the USA, educated both in Canada and the USA, degrees in, arts, history, and law. He's a celebrity and a son of a former PM, Ben Mulrooney.
Oh, yeah. Cute.
Cute. There you go. Lowell Green and his devil horns. They're enjoying that. O'Toole was like the white horse with no name. Nobody really knew it, and we never found out.
Wait, that's interesting.
Yep.
The white horse with no name. Okay.
Lorraine says, how about someone older with wisdom, knowledge, and experience?
I'm not running.
They said older. Come on. David says someone that doesn't have a copy of Klaus Schwab's book, COVID-19, The Great Reset. Okay, David, thank you. Rick says, I fear the bribe media will make the choice for us. The next conservative leader needs a new aggressive strategy to deal with them. Carolyn Mulroney's name coming up again, suggested by Mike. Deborah says...
Let me point out, there's this, these things keep reminding me. If there is one person I know that can handle the media, it would be Pierre Poilievre. I've seen him do this before. He has a knack. First of all, he is more knowledgeable than any journalist I have ever seen, particularly when it comes to economics and history. He's more knowledgeable. So there's no journalist that can buffalo him there. Go ahead, John.
No, he sure he raked the media over the coals earlier this week in a scrum that I watched. It was fantastic.
Yes.
Deborah says Pierre Poilievre would make a great leader. If we were to choose a woman, Carolyn Mulroney might be a good candidate. There's that name again. Chris says we need someone who veers more towards moderate. I do not want anyone who veers too far to the right from a social perspective. Let's focus on the country and the economy and progression. Lisa Raitt is the name he's putting forward. Liz says Brad Wall.
Let me just jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Lisa Raitt, as far as I am concerned, when she was in the House, she was Deputy Prime Minister under Harper. She was one of the most effective, hardworking, honest, intelligent members I think that we have ever seen in the House. It was a crying. I still cannot believe that someone of the caliber of Lisa Raitt and her accomplishments would be defeated by some guy simply because he'd won a medal in kayaking at the Olympics. I mean, in a case like that, I mean, you really have to ask yourself, and I've said this before, like, what do people want? Do you want competence? Do you want hardworking? Do you want intelligence? Do you want effectiveness? Or do you want celebrity? Well, in the case of Lisa Raitt, they voted for celebrity, and that's all. What a shame.
What do I keep saying? The rock star appeal, right?
That was, to me, that was almost tragic. She was probably the brightest, aside maybe from Pierre, the brightest member of the Conservative Party and the most effective and the most honest. I remember her and most compassionate. I don't know if you recall the time that May, what's her name of the
Elizabeth May?
Elizabeth May was at excuse me, at the press conference or whatever, that press meeting, whatever the hell it was, and she was drunk as a skunk, making an ass of herself. And it was Lisa Raitt who very quietly came up and steered her away and rescued her from abject embarrassment, just as one example. And her voters voted her down in favor of a celebrity who, by the way, this guy that beat her, he is now a backbencher. I don't even know if he serves in any committees. He is so ineffective that I don't even know if he serves in any committees. Go ahead.
Yeah, on her, you and I will agree. Glenn says a committed tag team leadership, Pierre Poilievre and Michelle Rempel-Garner would get my support. Anne says, absolutely, Lowell, right on about Pierre, incredible guy. Liz says Brad Wall has stated he will not run. Pierre Polyev would be great if he could cool down his attack dog persona and appear more calm. He's very intelligent and articulate, but a lot of women don't like him because he's too abrasive.
Well, there you go. You want somebody that's definitive and yet, well,
You said that.
If you're going to give somebody hell, you got to be nice about it. I guess that's it, right?
Dogbone says whoever it is has to connect with young voters. Rick says a populace that can reject the competence of Harper is terribly confused. Peter says Pierre is perfect. That's why my vote is going if he that's where my vote is going if he runs, period. Like his name too, says Peter. Good show today, Lowell, says Craig. No. Give me abrasive, says Barbara. And a text over here. Yes, Pierre is a student of economics and Canadian history. I just wonder why he won't run. Young family and doesn't want dirt dug up on him. He's not stuffy. He is well-dressed and mingles with the normal man. Trudeau is a rich boy. Here you go.
All right. We have to move on. Thank you all very much, folks. I am going to enjoy. My wife is right now off to Kelsey's for some hot wings. I am allowed hot wings once a week, and today is the day. Thank you all. You sure you won't run, John?
I'm pretty sure. I'd rather sit here starving on radio. I think I'm.
Can I tell you something? Wise decision.
I don't know anymore. The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.